I grew up in the capital city of Zimbabwe, Harare. When I was 7 years old, my mother would sit down, my two brothers and my two sisters, and tell us about the lives of the women she supported in the rural areas. She would tell us that despite the back-breaking work they did, from sunrise to sunset, they could barely take their children to school. They worked so hard just to earn a few dollars. From that age, I made up my mind that I too want to work in supporting women in rural communities. When I was 14 years old, my father bought a farm in rural Zimbabwe. And I went to a school just next to the farm. The school had a focus on agriculture. This was the first introduction to commercial agriculture. I learned that commercial agriculture has the power to transform economies by empowering farmers. But unfortunately, my experience at the school was very hard. The school was not ready for women in agriculture. Out of 50 students, we only had 3 girls. Yes, 3. I had to wear the khaki shorts, the shirt, and the long socks, because there was no uniform for girls. For 2 years, I studied agriculture at my school, and continuously I got bullied. They told me that I was a boy because of my uniform. The boys used to pull my chair, then I'll fall to the ground, and they would laugh. But despite how hard it was, I was determined not to give up. I felt I must persevere. I was an example to other young girls. I wanted them to see me excel. I wanted to show them that you can achieve anything if you put your mind to it, even when the odds were against you. So I made sure I studied hard. After 2 years, I graduated 3rd in my class, and I'm happy to inform you that the other 2 people ahead of me were also girls. As girls, we stuck together, and yes, we did persevere. I then further on went to the United Kingdom to study a degree in agriculture business management. I remember the first day I arrived to a British farm. I thought to myself, these farmers are so cool. You know, they have tractors, planters, combine harvesters. This was worlds apart from the woman in my mother's story who farmed with hoes and torn clothes. After I graduated, I was determined to return to my country. My goal was to transform the agriculture sector in Zimbabwe. I decided to write a business proposal. When I finally got to Zimbabwe, after waiting for so long, I got to meet my bank manager. I remember the day I went. He came out in a pinstripe suit. He looked very important. I sat there anxiously, and he said to me, "Young lady, how old are you?" I replied, "I'm 25 years old, sir." He replied, "Do you have collateral?" I said, "Well, I just have my university degree, sir." And then he was quiet for some time. Then he replied and said, "Unfortunately, we cannot help you. Next." I went home. I was broken, in tears. I started crying with my parents. Then, after so long, my mom, she got up. She went to her drawer. She took out a black box with her savings. And she said to me, "My girl, you can do anything if you put your mind to it. Now go and conquer the world." That year, I planted 1 hectare of cabbages, rape, vegetable, and king onions. I used the knowledge I'd learned at university. I understood that farming was a business. Within 1 month, I was already selling, and my products was very successful. The reason for my success was because of my education. I had learned, yes, farming practically. Just as importantly, I had also learned about the business element, which included critical skills like how do you secure markets? As a result of my high quality product, I got my big break. A company called me and they offered to contract me to grow snap peas for them to export into the European Union. They had seen the quality of my product and they knew that I had the capacity to grow for them. So I became the first woman as well as the first grower below the age of 30 years. I have since shared my story to inspire other young ladies in rural areas, yes, but as well as the urban areas. There are more women farmers, but men control almost every aspect of agriculture. Men own land, men have more finance, men have more access to markets, men have access to the tools that make agriculture efficient. In spite of all this, I tell the women that we can, we should, and we must stand shoulder to shoulder with men. Together, with an equal playing field, we can do so much more. We can change the image of our continent. We can feed the world. Today, I'm the first woman to hold the role of chairperson of the Zimbabwe Farmers Union Youth. I have represented women in agriculture across the world, sharing not only my story, but the many stories of women in agriculture. Women producers need access to education in agriculture. They need access to technology and access to finance. This year, I was named one of the top 10 young people in Zimbabwe. I have traveled the world talking about my experience. Back in my community, I am not just the only woman who owns a tractor, planter, and center pivot, but I'm the only person who owns this technology, period. Many see me now and say I've arrived. In many ways, I have, but I'm still faced with so many challenges. The armyworm, increased pests. But I understand personally how hard it can be. However, I have education. I know that there are solutions, and we must get them in the hands of the people who need them. That is why I have become an advocate for women in science. Together, men and women can feed our growing population. Science is not moving fast for us as farmers. We need vital technologies which can adapt to today's technologies. My involvement with Alliance for Science is because of my strong belief that science needs to hurry up. The technology is there. I conclude by an African proverb that many of you might know. Alone, you can go faster, but together, we can go further. Let's come together, farmers, scientists, and innovators, and help feed the world. Let's leave no man and no woman behind. Thank you.